for Sonicstate at Superbooth 2019 at the Soulsby Synths. Well, Soulsby Synth, this is the Soulsby Synth himself, Mr. Paul Soulsby.
Hi there. Hi, good to see you again.
The last time we were with you, we were at Synthfest and we were looking at the Multitron, which was in a state of development. Is it ready?
It's not ready quite yet, but it's very close now. Very close. Yeah, I can basically demonstrate everything within the ATX range now.
Okay.
The feature set is pretty close to completion.
Yep.
There's a little bit more software to write. The hardware is pretty much ready. We're then looking at beta testing, debugging, and setting up a production process, which all of those are quite big jobs. But I can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
So you said the ATX range. Could you just give us a brief overview what that entails?
So yeah, the key thing I haven't really sort of explained yet is that the ATX is actually more of an ecosystem rather than separate standalone instruments. Each ecosystem requires a controller, like you have one here, and then up to 8 synthesizer engines, like the Multitron has all 8, and then up to 8 effects engines as well, like the filters or the mixer or the joystick module. Right. That means that you can expand things at a later date in the future. It's a highly expandable system, and I'll show that with the Megatron in a moment. I'll just quickly take you through. I've now finished all the sound engines for launch.
Okay. How many sound engines is that?
It's going to be 5 sound engines at launch, and then that will increase. I've already got ideas for other ones, but you have to kind of draw a line somewhere to start with. The key thing with this is not just 8 oscillators or 8 voices. This is 8 synthesizers in a box, and these can be arranged in any formulation you want. For instance, I've got the first 3 using the classic Megatron.
So that's kind of polychaining then.
Polychaining 3 at Megatron.
So 3 at Megatron.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so 3 voice poly at Megatron.
Yeah.
Then don't forget that passes through now the analog filters, multi-mode filters. So you can really shape that glitchiness and either edge it off completely into a nice warm pad like that, or keep it bright. You can bypass the filters. They're multi-mode. That was the low pass. You've got a band pass there. Oh, that was the high pass. Sorry, there's a band pass. Oh, bit of resonance there. Another band pass. And then there's another 4 with a different resonance slope. So you've got 8 different options for the analog filters, all with their own envelopes and LFOs. That's a little LFO that does a rhythmical shape. And then it passes through the VCA and DSP effects. You could hear that's reverb. It's a programmable DSP effect that you can stream from the SD card onto the DSP chip itself.
Yeah, cool.
That will be available on my website. That was just the Megatron on those 3, but then on, say, 5 and 6, I don't think I've demonstrated the string engine yet.
Oh, nice.
So that's chaining, they're 4 voices each, so that's an 8-voice string machine.
And again, goes through the analog, everything has its own, each of these has its own analog filter.
Exactly,
yeah.
so. And you can also, on 7, I've got the Auditron bass. I'm not sure I've shown you that either. And you can do a keyboard split as well. So I've got the strings here. Useful for performance modes.
Could you create like 8 splits if you wanted to? Could you kind of group the different ones, or is it split?
Yeah. You basically, each zone has its own upper and lower limit on the notes and a trigger zone. If you make them all the own trigger zones, you could literally have like you could have tiny little zones of 8 sounds if you're only needing a couple of notes of each one.
Yeah, cool.
So you could do that. Yeah, it's all about sort of the open end versatility of it. Oh, and on number 8, I got the drums. I think you may have heard those. Again, going through the filter and that kind of thing. So with the Multitron, you kind of get a very comprehensive system, all 8 engines in the box. If we move on to the Megatron 2 here, this is just 2 synthesizer engines in a box. And if I play you,
But the same architecture with
Exactly.
with the analog filters.
not the analog filter, we got the
Ah,
controller.
okay. Yep.
So what if you at a later date you're like, well, I love this, but I really want those analog filters on the At Multitron.
Yep.
They're not standalone units, so they're fully expandable.
Ah.
So I've got here. This is the output of the Megatron Auditron I've got up. That's the sound I've got going there. Now, if I turn that down, I've expanded this through the Dirt for Multicore and this ATX data cable into the I/O expander, and then that goes into the filters module, and then onto the mixer and effects module, i.e. the
Excellent.
stuff that you've got on the At Multitron.
Right.
So if I now play. Now that's not just a standalone module that I'm just outputting through. This has complete control through the controller. So for instance, I can control the cutoff of that filter from the controller, or I can control it there and it will update on the controller. It's two-way data control.
Bidirectional. Yeah, great.
And the deeper parameters that aren't accessible on the module itself are controlled by the controller. So if I go to LFO mode there, I can change the shape. So yes, it's giving you complete expansion of data and audio from your synth. And again, you could add more voices, up to 6 more voices, 8 voices total, 8 external effects modules total as well. The other thing you can do is overplug on this I/O expander with standard Eurorack kit. So I've got some the Ossitrons and the Megadrums here. I've overplugged here into some of these inputs here, and if I set those Ossitrons running, you can hear I'm going through those filters. And of course you've got the LFOs all clocked, so there's nothing to stop you clocking those and having a nice filter sweep that's in time and clocked. So it's fully compatible into the Eurorack land that way round. You've also got, if you're a Eurorack purist, you can't stand the thought of having any desktop MIDI things in your rig. You can also keep pure to Eurorack. You can buy a standalone controller, and this is like your simplest setup. One Eurorack controller here, one's voice there. That one's not active, so it says with it not making any sound. Oh, I've turned it down. Always helps if you turn anything up.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's essentially a kind of your simplest system, one voice, one controller, but you could then expand like almost kit style.
Great. So you said late summer.
Yeah.
Available?
I think the plan is to launch the whole lot together, because
the whole ecosystem is one.
it only really makes sense if you have it all available, because this is just the start. Beyond this, if you want to start getting quite nerdy, there's a protocol behind it that allows me, and this is part of what takes the time, is that I'm thinking, well, in future I might want to do more filters modules. I want to do other voices that don't just use the Atmega chip. I want to use the chips that are in the Atari. I've got some very exciting voice modules planned for that. It all runs on the same ATX protocol, and the key thing is to be thinking ahead. So, well, I might want to control that in the future. Everything must be as open-ended as possible, so that as I add more and more ATX voices, external effects, the whole thing can be expanded. I'd love to keep this going for years and years, expanding the range.
Yeah, brilliant. So I guess, this is kind of planting the foundations for this.
Exactly.
Yeah, excellent.
This is just the start.
Just the start. World domination.
Yeah.
It will be mine. Well, Paul, thank you so much for showing us this.
Yes,
and
thanks very much. Thank you.
good luck with it.
Soon. Thank you.
Great.